Urban exploration, or exploring the abandoned or hidden parts of cities, can be thrilling and full of excitement and danger. For some, it's a hobby driven by curiosity and the thrill of discovering forgotten places. However, these explorations can often lead to encounters that are far more terrifying than anyone could even imagine. In this collection, we share 3 chilling true horror stories that will surely leave you in shock. So prepare for goosebumps and let's enter into the world of true scary stories, urban exploration horror stories, and true ghost stories that will haunt your dreams. Let's begin our descent into the darkness, where the past refuses to stay buried and the unseen forces still linger in the shadows. Eloise Psychiatric Hospital in Michigan has a dark history of mental health treatment, with many reports of mistreatment and inhumane conditions. The asylum, which opened in 1839, was once a massive complex with thousands of patients. It closed its doors in the late 1980s, but its haunted reputation has only grown since then. In 2010, a group of urban explorers, Jason, Michelle, and Eric, decided to explore the abandoned hospital. They had heard the scary stories of ghostly apparitions and strange noises and wanted to experience it for themselves. The hospital's entrance was overgrown with weeds, and the air felt thick with history. As they stepped inside, the atmosphere changed instantly. The hallways were dim, the paint peeling off the walls, and old medical equipment lay scattered around. Every step echoed, breaking the silence. As they walked through the dark, decaying hallways, they felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The hospital was filled with old medical equipment, patient files, and personal belongings left behind. Suddenly, they heard the faint sound of a piano playing. Following the music, they reached the old recreation room, but it was empty, and the piano was covered in dust. Continuing their exploration, they entered the basement, known for being particularly spooky. There, they encountered a cold spot, and Michelle felt an icy hand touch her shoulder. They quickly snapped a few photos, and in one of them, they captured a faint, ghostly figure standing behind them. The basement was filled with rusted machinery and old storage rooms. The air was damp, and a foul odor was everywhere. As they moved through the narrow corridors, they heard faint whispers, almost like someone was trying to communicate with them. The feeling of being watched intensified. In one of the storage rooms, they found an old gurney with restraints still attached. Jason felt a sudden chill and saw his breath fog up in front of him. He turned to see a shadowy figure move across the room and disappear into the wall. The group stood frozen in place, their hearts pounding. As they made their way back to the main floor, they heard footsteps following them. Turning around, they saw nothing but darkness. Suddenly, a door slammed shut behind them, and the sound of a woman crying filled the hallway. They ran towards the exit, feeling as if something was chasing them. Their experience left them shaken, and they vowed never to return. The photos they took serve as chilling evidence of their encounter. Eloise Psychiatric Hospital remains one of the most infamous haunted locations for urban explorers, with numerous reports of paranormal activity. The Baker Hotel in Mineral Wells, Texas, opened in 1929 and was once a luxurious destination. However, it closed in 1972 and has since fallen into disrepair. The hotel is rumored to be haunted by several ghosts, including the spirit of a woman who jumped to her death from the 7th floor. In 2012, a group of friends David, Rachel, and Mark decided to explore the abandoned hotel. They had heard the true ghost stories and were curious to see if they could experience anything supernatural. The hotel stood as a grand, decaying monument to a bygone era. Its entrance was blocked by broken furniture and debris, but these urban explorers found a slightly open side door. As they stepped inside, the beautiful old lobby took their breath away, despite its state of decay. It was so silent out there, and the atmosphere already looked spooky. As they were looking around the grand, decaying lobby, they heard the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. They followed the sound to the second floor, where they found nothing but dust and broken furniture. Suddenly, Rachel felt a sharp pain in her arm, as if she had been scratched. When they shone a flashlight on her arm, they saw 3 red scratch marks. Determined to continue, they made their way to the infamous 7th floor. As they walked through the hallway, they saw a shadowy figure at the end, slowly approaching them. Terrified, they ran back down the stairs, but the figure seemed to follow them. They finally exited the hotel, shaking legs and thanking God. Known for the tragic story of the woman who jumped to her death, the 7th floor was particularly unsettling. The air was thick with a sense of sadness and despair. As they walked down the hallway, they felt a sudden drop in temperature. David's flashlight flickered, and they heard a faint sobbing sound. In one of the rooms, they found old newspapers and personal belongings scattered on the floor. Rachel picked up a locket and felt an icy chill run down her spine. She looked up and saw a translucent figure of a woman standing by the window, looking out as if waiting for someone. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving them in stunned silence. Back in the lobby, they heard the sound of a woman's laughter echoing through the halls. It was cheerful at first, but quickly turned into a haunting, maniacal laugh. They captured the sound on their camera, adding another piece of evidence to their collection of true scary stories. The laughter continued to echo even as they left the building. Their experience at the Baker Hotel left them convinced that the stories were true. The unexplained scratches and the shadowy figure were enough to make them believers. The Baker Hotel remains a popular destination for ghost hunters and urban explorers, with many reporting similar encounters. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky, opened in 1910 as a tuberculosis hospital. It is known for the high number of deaths that occurred there and its infamous body chute used to discreetly remove deceased patients. The sanatorium closed in 1961 and has since become a hotspot for paranormal activity. In 2014, a group of ghost hunters, including Sam, Jenny, and Paul, decided to spend the night in the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. They were armed with cameras, audio recorders, and other ghost hunting equipment. The massive building loomed over them, its windows dark and foreboding. As they stepped inside, they were greeted by a long, dark hallway lined with patient rooms. The air was thick with the scent of decay and mildew. Their footsteps echoed loudly, adding to the feeling of isolation. As they walked through the dark, empty halls, they heard disembodied voices and footsteps. In the children's ward, they placed a ball on the floor and asked any spirits present to move it. Can you believe this? Surprisingly, the ball rolled across the room on its own. Later, in the infamous room 502, where a nurse allegedly committed suicide, they captured an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, of a woman's voice saying, "Help me." They also felt cold spots and saw shadow figures moving down the hallway. The body chute, a long tunnel used to transport bodies out of the building, was particularly unnerving. The tunnel was steep and dark, and the air was damp and cold. As they walked down the chute, they heard footsteps behind them and felt a strong sense of being watched. At the bottom of the chute, they set up their equipment and began asking questions. Suddenly, they heard a loud bang, as if something had been thrown against the wall. Paul felt a cold hand touch his shoulder, and he quickly turned around to see a dark shadow standing behind him. The shadow vanished, leaving them in a state of panic. As they made their way back to the main building, they decided to spend some time in the old operating room. The room was filled with old surgical tools and tables. Jenny felt a sharp pain in her side and saw a dark figure standing by one of the tables. The figure seemed to be watching them, its eyes glowing in the darkness. Waverly Hills continues to attract ghost hunters and urban explorers, all eager to experience its haunted atmosphere. These true stories of urban exploration show the risks and thrills of exploring abandoned places. Whether you believe in ghosts or just enjoy a good scare, these tales remind us of the hidden horrors that can lurk in forgotten corners. The next time you think about exploring an abandoned site, remember these stories and the chilling experiences of those who dared to venture into the unknown. Stay safe and never forget that some places are abandoned for a reason.